Fire Emblem Heroes wouldn't be a success without the fans that make it possible. However, since Faye's release, the Fire Emblem fanbase has undergone a little bit of a change. Let's look at Reddit for a little bit. Our Fire Emblem has been on Reddit since about 2012. In 7 years, it's gained over 117,000 subscribers. Very respectable. Our Fire Emblem Heroes has been on Reddit since 2017, and in just 2 years, it's gained over 137,000 subscribers. Wow, 20,000 more subs than the general Fire Emblem subreddit. That's insane. Due to the fact that there does seem to be a sizable following on both subreddits, this has led many to believe that there's been a split in the fan base. The evidence is compelling. On a lot of platforms, there are separate communities for general Fire Emblem and Fire Emblem Heroes. But do they all relatively hold the same opinions about the series? I didn't know. So I took to both Fire Emblem subreddits and both Fire Emblem Aminos to gather some information about how they all feel about the franchise and what their personal experience with Fire Emblem is. Before we get started with the results, thank you to everyone who participated in the surveys. I got over 1,000 responses from people, and honestly, I can't thank you enough for being willing to participate in this. Here's what I gathered from the results. By far, the most common way people had heard of Fire Emblem was through Super Smash Bros., then from a friend, and then from the internet. However, the third most popular result in the Fire Emblem Heroes Amino was that they had heard of the franchise through Fire Emblem Heroes. Both Fire Emblem Heroes platforms had mostly heard of the game through Nintendo Directs. The subreddit's next two most popular options were that they had heard of it from other places on the internet, and then from a friend. The Amino's next two most popular options were from a friend, and then through advertising. The most popular result for everyone's first Fire Emblem game was Fire Emblem Awakening. Both Fire Emblem Aminos had Fates and Heroes as their most next popular result, while r/Fire Emblem had the Blazing Blade and the Sacred Stones. r/Fire Emblem Heroes had the Blazing Blade and Fire Emblem Heroes. The next question was exactly how many Fire Emblem games all four platforms had played. Combined, all of them had played at least every single Fire Emblem installment. The Heroes platforms were least likely to have played Gaiden and New Mystery of the Emblem, while the general Fire Emblem platforms were least likely to have played Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. The general Fire Emblem platforms confirmed that they mostly do in fact regularly play Fire Emblem Heroes, citing reasons like the game being a good time killer and being excited at the chance to use their favorite characters. Those who don't play Fire Emblem Heroes are mostly not fond of the gacha aspect and fan service implementation. The Fire Emblem Heroes platforms confirmed that they do prefer the main series of Fire Emblem games over Fire Emblem Heroes, but interestingly enough, the Heroes Amino was a little bit more split on this. People cited the fact that main series Fire Emblem is more in-depth, and the inclusion of hit-and-miss rates. Those who prefer Fire Emblem Heroes were fond of the accessibility, and, like the general FE platforms, the inclusion of their favorite characters. I think the one conclusion that we can get from this survey is that Heroes made stronger Fire Emblem fans. A lot of people still play it regularly, and those who were introduced to the series with Heroes have now gone back and played the other games. None of the communities seem vehemently against Heroes or the main series of games, so I think the only split that people were seeing was the platforms on which people chose to discuss Fire Emblem. Some users on Reddit contributed personal stories as to how they were introduced to the Fire Emblem franchise. I found those very interesting, so I decided to read a few of those for you here. It_Brit posted, "Got stuck in an airport after a flight cancellation, and I happened to meet a girl who let me play a battle from Awakening on her 3DS. I never would have considered these games if not for such a weird coincidence, and now Fire Emblem is one of my favorite video game series. I bought a 3DS really early, like Layton wasn't out in English yet, so I became qualified for the Ambassadors program where they give you a bunch of virtual console games because they pity you. Sacred Stones was part of the pack and I was really enjoying it. Awakening was announced before I finished it, so I got hyped for that and got it at launch if I recall correctly. I saw the name Fire Emblem in the GBA section and assumed that Ephraim was Marth from Smash Bros. I can't remember the specifics, but I must have been looking for GBA ROMs since I downloaded an emulator. This was back in the 2000s when I was a kid. I remember playing Sacred Stones a little, but my most vivid memory was of playing Blazing Blade and loving it, and feeling so impressed I finished the game, until it kept going and I realized that was just effectively the tutorial, and then I quit to go back to Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. First I actually bought and played through was Awakening. I'd like to go back and replay those games someday though, and I'm planning on trying out Tellius in the possibly near future. And my personal favorite response from Plugs Plays Stuff. I saw it at the store and I bought it. The link to the full thread will be in the description below. Thanks for participating, everyone. The Fire Emblem fanbase has definitely gotten larger over the past few years, and even stronger since the release of Heroes. We may not all converse on the same platform, agree on our favorites, or even like Fire Emblem Heroes, but there is one thing that brings everyone together: the strategy RPG series that we all love.